Hi readers, it's Lori. Welcome back to my channel, Books, Ink, and Paper. I am here to talk to you about my August progress on my really robust August TBR. I think I had 10 books, 8 books, 10 books. It was an interesting month. I read a lot in August, and I didn't expect to get through all 10 books, but let's talk about how I did and what happened with some of them. So let's start with what I didn't finish. I did not finish The Scarlet Letter by Nathaniel Hawthorne, and I'm probably calling this as a DNF for real. I don't know if it was because I was young and enamored with the classics, or if it was because I had to read it for class and had no choice. I don't know. Maybe I read the Cliff Notes and I have no memory of it, but I could not. I couldn't even listen to it. I couldn't. And I'm okay with that. It might be my mood right now. It might be that. It might be just that the first, I don't even know how many pages are not at all necessary. Like, he doesn't even get to the actual story of Hester Prynne until I don't even know how long, but yeah, I'll keep it. My granddaughters and my grandson might have to read it one day. I might have a weak moment where I decide I'm going to give it another shot, but this is a DNF for me. I also did not get to The Good Daughter by Alexandra Burt. I wanted to, certainly, but it just wasn't in the mix. And I had a couple of things that were priorities, which I'll talk about later, but I do want to continue to read this, so I'll pick it up again at another time, maybe October, November. I might. I did not get to The Shadow of the Wind. I know. But I also think this might be a good fall read, so I'm going to keep it out and looking at it and committed to it. Just didn't get to start it. And I didn't get back to the For Ms. Bradwell's either. But again, still excited about it. Just wasn't time for it. Wasn't room for it. So let's talk about what I did finish. So I had 2 arcs on my list of things I wanted to get to. I had a Riley Sager that I had started in July. And then I also threw in another mood read based on a recommendation of a booktuber. So the physical copies that I finished, I think, yes, the physical copies of books I finished Sharp Objects by Gillian Flynn. This was one I borrowed from Megan maybe a month or so ago, and I wanted to read it. And I read it really quickly. In fact, I read it on one of the weekends where I really wasn't feeling well, and so I just didn't stop. I am excited to watch the adaptation now to see. I understand it's pretty true to the book, but I did like this. I wouldn't say I liked it as much as Gone Girl, and maybe it's because, for me, the characters were hard to, in some cases, hard to identify with. The main character, whose name was Camille, was very, very flawed in many ways. I can't identify with her. But I did feel for her, and yet some of the choices she made, I just couldn't imagine her making them. And yet, again, I can't, that's not my life. So I have no judgment around it. It was just hard for me to watch her make some of these choices. And yet I understood why she was making the choices because of the way that they give her backstory in her life. So it follows this woman who returns to her hometown after being away in the heart of Chicago for a while, and she is returning because there were 2 girls murdered in her hometown, and she works for a newspaper, and her editor, who's very nice and kind to her and more like also like a father to her, we discover later, her editor sends her to this small town because it's her town to cover these stories and to find out what happened. And so she stays with her mom and her stepfather and her stepsister and tries to investigate these murders. And so there's these murders happening. The town coming together around these things, or not coming together around these murders. Then there's the family dysfunction and the family history. And so it's a lot packed in a very small book, and it was very well laid out. So I appreciated that. It was very well paced. It was easy to read. It was a fast read, as I said, and I gave it 4 stars. And I read The 2-Week Wait by Sarah Rayner. It's a new author to me. I've had this book for a while. Love the cover. I also have another of hers, which is called One Moment, One Morning, which I am planning to pick up soon because I really did enjoy Sarah Rayner's book. The 2-Week Wait is about 2 women who are in different places in their lives, both wanting to have a child, both not able to do that in the traditional way, and how their lives begin to intersect. It was also a fast read for me. I read it in 2 days, and it's pretty good size, well-paced, well-written, good character development. Why didn't I give it 5 stars? I don't know. I mean, it was great. It just wasn't like, oh my goodness. I did cry, which is sometimes the criteria for a 5-star read. If I'm crying, I did cry at the end. So there was that, but it wasn't quite a like sobbing into uncontrollable emotion space. It was just wonderful, though. I recommend it a lot. Then I finished The Last Time I Lied by Riley Sager. I had started this from the library before the month began. I gave it 4 stars. I did not give it 5 stars. And here's why. I didn't feel as connected to these characters as I typically do to Riley Sager's other novels. I didn't feel as connected to the main character for sure. It's a story about a woman who returns to a camp where she was as a young person, and when she was there as a young person, the girls that were in the cabin with her went missing, and they were never, their murders or their missingness was never resolved. And so the owner of the camp asks her to come back to be a camp counselor because they're going to reopen the camp after this tragedy. Many years have passed. It was just, some of it was just a little far-fetched for me, which I think was probably why I gave it 4 stars. There was just some plot twists or plot points that I thought were a little not something I would have expected, and not in a, oh, I didn't see that coming kind of way. But it was good, and I gave it 5 stars, or 4 stars. It's a great read for, I would say, for people who are fans of some of the horror genre that are written around summer camps. I would say that that's a fun read to take a look at. Then the non-physical books. The one I chose as a mood read is The Life We Bury, which is the first Joe Talbot novel by Alan Eskins. And I had no idea about this, which is, well, let me just say this. I had forgotten that Megan, my daughter, had told me that she read it and it was really good. And then I saw Lindsay from Lindsay's Little Library talking about it one day as one of her favorites, and she got the next book 2. And I just got it on Scribd and started listening to it and couldn't stop. I actually read this in 2 days as well, listened to it in 2 days as well. Really enjoyed it. It's a story of a young man who is in college, and he is supposed to write a paper about an older person's story, interview an older person. So he goes to a nursing home, and they are a little bit reticent about allowing him to talk to any of the people who live there, but they finally agree that he can talk to this one man who is a murderer, who is on death row, but is in the nursing home or assisted care facility because he is on hospice care because he's dying of cancer. And so he begins this discovery of this man's story, which, oh my gosh, this book was so good. It really, really was. And so it had great character development for Joe. It had great character development with his family story and his relationship with a neighbor. It had great depth and plot and pacing and some twists and turns, and I gave it 5 stars. I was totally thrilled with it. I do plan to read the second book, which I can't remember the name of, but I'll get to it soon. And one of the things I wanted to do this month was to pick up a couple of advanced readers copies or ARCs that I had on my NetGalley shelf that had been sitting there for a bit, and I need to get through that, and I didn't add one for September, but I probably should have. So one of the ones that I read was called The Swap by Robin Harding. This is a story of some small town Northeast US where apparently this town is known for its acceptance of and welcoming of swingers or people who are polyamorous. And so it's the story of 2 couples and a young girl whose parents are polyamorous. They have relationships with multiple people who live in the same house. So it's interesting. It was very fast-paced. I felt like it was well done. I left a review on Goodreads about it in pretty great detail. I gave it 3 stars. The problem I had with it, I think, primarily was the characters weren't, to me, really well developed. I wasn't really sure I understood many of them, and I think there was maybe a deliberate action there, because perhaps there were some things that were revealed at the end that maybe the author didn't want you to know. I don't know. I'm not sure why, but I felt like the 2 couples were not very well developed at all. It was told from many perspectives. Because it was told from many perspectives too, without trying to spoil this, because it was told from many perspectives, there was sort of some clue about which person wasn't being represented and telling their story. So there was that, and I was curious about why that person wasn't telling their story. The best developed character was Swallow, which was the teenager, and I really did enjoy her. So I gave it 3 stars, and I was able to knock it off my ARC list, so that felt really good. And then I finished The Tenant by Katrine Engberg, which was a book set in Scandinavia, and I gave it 3 stars as well. I had that on e-copy, and I also listened to it for a time so that I could get it completed. I almost didn't finish it. So the 3 stars is really about the way it was written was great. The atmospheric pieces about Scandinavia were also great. I liked the character okay, but I didn't really love him. He's a detective. It's a police procedural novel. A murder occurs, and the apartment, the guy who was in the apartment and the woman who owns the apartment or is the landlord of the apartment, they're all kind of intertwined in this thing, and there's a kind of a bigger club of writers that are connected, and it's unique. So I gave it 3 stars too, because it's unique in the plotting and in the development of the plot. And yet when it wrapped up, I was kind of like, that's odd. And yet not odd, but I don't know. I just, I don't know. It was good. It was 3 stars. It was good. But I just kind of got confused. There were a lot of characters doing a lot of different things. I couldn't always keep track of them, so to speak, and who they were and what was important to be listening to or noticing. But I gave it 3 stars. And I don't know if I would read another novel by Katrine Engberg or not, but I did finish it. Future Lori, editing Lori, realized today when I added the picture of my stack for August that I didn't even talk about 2 books that were on my TBR. So, holy crap. I don't know how that happened. I don't even know. Okay, so I also had added Double Indemnity by James M. Cain. I DNF'd this. I started it, and like the Scarlet Letter, it just wasn't doing it for me. I can't say, though, that I won't take a look again. It just wasn't working. The relationship between the insurance salesman, and the woman had just begun, and I wasn't very far into it. I did try to find it to listen to, and the only way I could do that was a radio show with actor performers, and I didn't know if that would be any different than the movie. So I don't know what to say about this one, if I'll pick it back up or not. I don't know, but I didn't finish it. And then the last one is The House at Riverton by Kate Morton, which I did start. Sorry, I have a really beautiful morning sunlight coming in the windows, and I'm in a different place, as you can see, but I did start it. I'm still reading it. I am enjoying it, and I have added it, as many of you have already seen, to my September TBR. So that is all the books that were on my stack. Okay, carry on. So 6 books, not bad. A couple that I didn't get to, and then one that I probably will never get to. So not a bad reading month. I enjoyed it. I'm glad that I didn't know when I started the month that I was going to feel so awful. So it did probably mean that I read more books than I would have if I hadn't felt so awful. But so I got a lot of reading time in because I had a lot of downtime recovering and things. But I'm really satisfied with it. And as you know now, because I put it up a couple days ago, my September TBR is a lot shorter, smaller, and a little bit more deliberate than last month's was. But I really just wanted that space to be able to mood read and pick what I wanted to read in the moment, and I did, and that was lovely. So I may do that again, because it's not like I ever expected to finish 10 books, but what I did expect was that I would read what I really felt like I was being pulled to read, and I did accomplish that, and that felt great. So thanks for joining me today. I hope that your August reading month was also successful and that you felt good about it. I can't wait to hear what you read last month and see if you have a channel. Link your channel in the comments below for other people to see it too, so you can get more subscribers. Appreciate my new subscribers. I haven't looked today, but the last time I looked, I was almost at 500. It's really hard for me to believe. It's taken me a bit of time to get there. It's been a bit of a slow journey, but I don't care. I'm just happy with all of you. I'm just happy with the relationship. So I was pleased to see that. And if you haven't already, I would love it if you would subscribe to my channel. And as always, happy reading. Bye.